Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for taking time out of your crazy busy schedules. And I want to thank you for being part of our Northwest ISD School Board Candidate Forum, blah, blah, blah. Get that out of the way right off the bat. And most of you already know that our school district encompasses 234 square miles, spans 3 counties, which are Denton, Tarrant, and Wise. We have 18 elementary schools with a 19th opening in the fall, 6 middle schools, 3 comprehensive high schools, and 1 accelerated high school. I think there's also 2 other properties that Carrie Ann told me about, but I don't have them listed. But we have a very large school district with a lot of students and a lot of parents and a lot of needs. And so I'm really excited that we are able to put the forum on tonight, because this is an important position that has a big impact on our school district. I would like to introduce Carrie Ann Jones, who is the president, outgoing president, finishing her term. Come on in, Carrie Ann.
Thank you.
For the Council of PTAs for Northwest ISD.
Thank you. I'm Carrie Ann Jones. I'm the current Council of PTAs president for Northwest ISD, and I'm excited to be joined here by several other council board members. Of course, you've met Bonnie Moore, who serves as our advocacy chair. I have Michelle Smith here, who also serves as our vice president currently, and Phyllis Grissom, who serves currently as our treasurer and is the newly elected president to succeed me next year. So thank you for being here in support of this opportunity. I also want to take the opportunity to introduce 2 of our administrators that are here. We have Mr. Todd Rogers, who was recently chosen as the new principal at Steele Accelerated High School. So we're excited to see him take in that position. And Carrie Jackson, who is the principal here at Northwest High School. So thank you for being there. I know we're also surrounded by several other PTA leaders, family, friends, teachers as well. So thank you all for being here. I do want to take this opportunity to thank Bonnie for all of her efforts as she led us and a busload of 30 students and adults to our PTA Rally Day on February 28th, February 25th. We had a very, very successful day, taking the kids to Capitol Hill and getting to meet personally with some of our senators and our legislators. And I think this is another excellent opportunity to show our students what it means to have a voting voice. And to thank you to those of you who are here, and I told them earlier, thanks for being vulnerable to take some questions on the fly. And thank you at home that are joining us. Please make sure that you chime in with your questions, and we'll be taking those and fielding those as well. Thank you so much. Back to you, Bonnie.
Thank you so much. Okay, quickly, I would just like to go over the general rules of the forum. This is a very conversational forum in that we will be asking questions of our 4 candidates. We will be taking questions from the audience in written form. There won't be any interaction back and forth. It will be strictly by written question, as well as taking questions from Facebook Live. So if you're watching this and you want to ask a question after we do our initial 5 or 6 questions, which are 2 minutes long, each of our candidates will have the opportunity to answer every question. So one person will answer, and we will start at the left with Tori Stevens-Bonte. Did I say that right? Thank you. Misspelled her name on the flyer, and I apologize for that. But we got it correct now. They did a drawing on March 4th, and they do determine which order their names would be on the ballot. And that's how we have them set up here tonight. So Tori Stevens-Bonte, then we have Deanne Hatfield, Marty Baylor, and Peter Dooney. So thank you for all of you for being willing to come here tonight, and also for actually running for this important position. So here are the rules. Each candidate's going to make a 2-minute opening statement based on the order of their names being drawn in the ballot, in the drawing. The candidates will be called upon to first answer their question, and then after the first question, we will rotate to Deanne, and she'll have the next. So everybody will have a chance to answer each question first. After we do the initial questions of 2 minutes, we will go to the lightning round, and that's when we take questions from the audience. We will read the question, and they will have 1 minute to answer. So it won't be, a long, wordy answer. It'll be pretty concise and quick. We have a timekeeper. She has a yellow and a red card. At about 20 seconds, we're going to hold the yellow card up, even though it says 15, but it takes a couple seconds to process what it says. And then we just ask that you please wrap up the question, and then we'll put the red card up and say, okay, you got to stop. No dialogue between the candidates and the audience. And if you have any other additional questions that you want to ask, we do have additional cards. Please just raise your hand and make sure that they get back to the bucket. Any questions? The most important thing out of all of this, obviously we want to get their responses, but we ask that everybody actually vote. Because all of this is for naught if you don't go vote. And early voting starts April 22nd. And we have information outside. Every county has their own hours and times listed. I have all 3 counties. So all you have to do is stop by, pick up a piece of paper. You can go to Denton County, Tarrant County, and Wise County. They all list it on their websites. You can vote in any early voting location by county. So if you're a Denton County resident and you live in Trophy Club or Roanoke, but you're up at the Denton Jazz Festival, just go up there and vote. You can vote in any location that's an early. On election day, however, you have to go to your specific polling location based on your precinct. Easy enough. So no excuses, you have to vote. With that, okay, my little speech for my voting. I think we're ready for the first question. Oh, opening statements. We'll start with Tori Stephen Bonte. From now on, it'll be first names.
Excellent. Okay, good evening, Northwest ISD community members. I'm honored to be here. Thank you to the PTSA for putting on this forum. I would like to take a few minutes to share a part of me with each of you and to explain why I'm running for a position on our school board. I have taught for 10 years in the classroom. The majority has been at the high school level, teaching chemistry and/or physics in a public school. I have taught pre-K through graduate students. I have a bachelor's degree in chemistry, and my doctorate is in measurement and statistics. I do not work at the district office. My husband does not work at the district office, nor do my children. In fact, 4 of my 6 children are currently students in our schools. I'm a transplant, and this is my home. My family and I have lived here for 6 years and counting, and we have quickly become part of the NISD family. As a family, we are involved in over 10 community sports and arts programs. I am the captain of our neighborhood flag planting, which is a thing Trophy Club does around the 4th of July. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but anyway, little thing there. I am not a politician. I'm a parent of children in school now, and I'm aware of the issues they face. The times we live in bring forth both challenges and blessings. The challenges and blessings are not the same I faced when I was in school. They are unique to this time in history, as is the case with every generation. It is important for the board to reflect the community they represent. I have school-aged children, and I am their mom. I know firsthand the way a mother does when a child is stressed about passing the STAR and the implications when they do or don't. I have carpooled daily to Keller from Byron, so Trophy Club, for swim team. I know what it's like. I know the teachers who are available before school, after school, and during school. I know them because they're my kids' teachers. I'm running to represent our community because parents, educators, and students matter. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry.
No, that's wonderful. Deanne.
Okay. I'll add my thanks to the PTA for putting on the forum tonight. And a little bit about myself. I grew up in the Northwest school system, and my family roots go back to the beginning of the district. I attended elementary school in Rome and Justin and Northwest Middle School and graduated from Northwest High School. I continued my education, graduating with a bachelor's degree from the University of North Texas. I live in Drop, Texas, which just is north of Justin. I'm married. I have 2 children and 3 granddaughters. I retired from Northwest ISD after 33 years of service, and I held the position of the Executive Director of Business Services. in the finance department. I was responsible for all the financial accounting of all the school district funds. And I have experience in all business, office, and finance functions, including budgeting. I've been a part of the growth of this district, watching it grow from a rural district of less than 5,000 students to where we are today, which is a little over 24,000 students, and we're growing, and we will be growing for quite some time. I've been active and actively involved in long-range planning as well as everyday operations. I'm familiar with the entire district and believe that my experience can provide a meaningful contribution to the school board and to the district.
Thank you. Marty, make sure you keep your voices up so that the microphone picks up.
Good
That's
evening.
my only reminder. Go ahead, sorry.
I am Marty Baylor. I'm pleased to be here this evening at the forum as well. I'd also like to thank Bonnie and the PTSAs for organizing the forum. It's a great setup to get to know us. I'd also like to welcome you as well as our Facebook crowd audience, and appreciate the time that you're taking this evening to sit and listen to us and ask your questions. I'm a retired grandfather of 3 grandsons. One is currently attending kindergarten in the Northwest ISD. He's actually here tonight. And I have twin grandsons that are just turned 3, so they'll be starting their educational careers in Northwest ISD in just a couple of years, so we're looking forward to that. After a 31-year career in higher education, my wife and I decided to move back to the North Texas area to be near the boys and help with taking care of them and wanting to be a part of their lives and the community. We live in the southern part of the district, which doesn't have a lot of representation, and so we're catty corner from the new school, Curtis Elementary, over on 156 and 287 Highway, so we're kind of in that lower section. I spent most of my career working for the University of Texas institutions. I worked locally for the University of Texas at Dallas and UT Southwestern. I retired from the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley in South Texas. I held the position of Executive Vice President for Financial Affairs and Chief Financial Officer. I oversaw a budget of just under $500 million. I have a very strong understanding of how education is funded in Texas and have worked with state legislatures on legislative priorities for the universities I've worked at. I've also been indirectly involved with educational topics for years, as my wife was a special education teacher, as well as my daughter, who has worked in special education and then other educational areas as well. My grandsons were my initial reason for wanting to become a part of the Board of Trustees. After joining the PTA at my grandson's school, decided that needed to look a little further and decided to run for this position when it came open. I certainly want to ensure that all of our kids get a solid education and that they have a lot of choices and options when they graduate. It's just so critically important for kids coming from the other side of their educational experience. If elected, I look forward to working with you and keeping Northwest ISD the quality school district that it has become. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marty. Peter?
Okay, I'm the anomaly. I'm not an educator, okay? I'm a retired Marine officer, all right? I moved to Texas back in 2005, and in 2007 became the mayor of Northlake, Texas, and have served in that capacity ever since. I decided not to run again for the mayor position in Northlake because this position came open. Both my children graduated from Northwest ISD, and they're successful college students, one getting ready to graduate this May, and the other one graduating about a year early next year. Okay? I understand the board. I have relationships with different board members. I understand the political system throughout this area and the big issues within that affects the students, the teachers, and administrators is the school finance system. It's broken, point blank, okay? I've gone down and testified before the House and Senate on different occasions, speaking about school financing and other issues. I'm not afraid to go down there and speak and represent my community as the mayor currently, or if necessary, as the board to go down there and do the will of the board. The will of the board and the duty of the board is to do what? Give the resources to the principals, administrators, and teachers to educate our children so they can be successful members of society regardless of what they want to do in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on. Over here. We're going to move on to the first question, which is, what suggestions do you have for recruiting and retaining teachers and other professionals in our school district? Tori, we'll start with you on this question.
Okay, in regards to, realize I have to talk louder, just in case. In regards to retaining teachers, it depends on why they're leaving. There are two reasons. If it's educators that are leaving because they're frustrated with the education system, which a large number of our teachers in this country are, that's a bigger problem. That's a nationwide problem, and obviously it has to do with how we respect our teachers, how they're funded, and what goes on in the classroom. Are they supported? But if we're finding that we're losing Northwest ISD teachers and they're going elsewhere, then we simply need to ask them and find out where are they leaving and why are they going, what's attracting them, and what is it we can do to retain them. It's not an answer that I can come up with out of a box. It's something I need to find out. Why are they leaving? It's a direct question. My experience, though, with teachers in the area, not just in Northwest ISD, but Fort Worth and other places, is Northwest ISD has a very good reputation. So I'm not expecting too many teachers leaving to run to Fort Worth or to Dallas. The teachers are well paid. Teachers that are here like teaching. Obviously, we do have teachers that are leaving for a number of reasons, but some of them are just leaving the profession because we have some really big issues in education that need to be addressed. As far as recruiting, the job fairs we do are fine. I do think it would be really nice to modernize it a little bit and do some vlogging. I think it would be really important for teachers to do some vlogs showing what it's like to teach in Northwest ISD. If we want to recruit teachers that are just not coming from UNT, love UNT, but if we just don't want them from TWU and UNT, because that's a certain number of teachers, if we want to go nationwide, then why not use some vlogging and put it on YouTube? People look at it and it does make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanne?
Number one for me is suggestion for the recruiting and retaining is to provide competitive salaries and benefits. I know that the Northwest is competitive with our surrounding districts in this area, but we all know that as far as being compared to other states, we're way down on the list. And the benefits part of that package is very important. I know of employees that in the past, when they received their raise, the final outcome after they applied their insurance rate that was higher for their their insurance coverage, it ate up all their raise. And so that package of the competitive salaries and benefits are very important. Another suggestion that I would have is to provide opportunities for professional development, career advancements, and opportunity for leadership roles. And also a good working environment, and that would include a safe environment for our teachers and staff. One of the items, or one thing that a lot of districts do have, and I believe our district does too, is a mentoring program. Those are all good programs to have to retain your teaching staff. And then I believe we should recognize our teachers for their successful achievements. We have many teachers that they present at state level and national levels, and many have received awards on that in that national and even international level. And the last thing that I would say is a supportive administration. You know, everybody wants to have your back. You want someone to have your back, and whether that be your principal or up through to the administration, your superintendent, and to your board members and community.
Thanks, Deanne. Marty?
As we've seen across the country, salaries are very important. So ensuring that salaries and benefits remain competitive is a really critical step. So you'll hear common themes through all of us, I guess, this evening. But that's just the beginning, because retaining requires a comprehensive retention plan that includes things like training for teachers so that they can stay competitive in their current positions and other professionals within the schools. We need to remain competitive in their current positions, as well as preparing them for any advancement opportunities that might present along the way. I mean, everyone wants to think about where they're going in their career, and that's critically important to have those opportunities along the way. This would also require an active plan for continually working on the district's pay plan and ensuring that we are not only competitive locally, but we are competitive nationwide, and we can attract the individuals that we want to attract to the district. Having this integrated plan with advancement opportunities, it creates a good work environment, because people do feel appreciated, they feel recognized, and they want to be a part of something that is churning out a positive work environment with excellent results on the professional and teaching as well as the student side. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty. Pete?
Okay, I'll go again. Pay's the easy one, okay? But also, it's the culture overall. And the culture, some say starts at the bottom, some say it starts at the top. I say it's a combination thereof, okay? It's the students creating that culture. It's the interaction of the teachers on a daily basis with those students that create that classroom culture. It's the administration and the board setting those proper goals, the policies and the procedures in place, and giving those resources there for the administrators and the principals to actually give the resources to the educators to actually fulfill their obligation to teach our children. That's it. The culture and the proper goals and procedures starting at the top, but empowering the students and the teachers in the classroom.
Thank you. Okay, next question, and we will start with Deanne on this one. Board members must at times decide to support or to oppose controversial issues that have vocal supporters on both sides. What process would you use, and with whom would you consult in making such decisions?
This is very tough because no matter, one side is going to go away unhappy. But the process that I would use would be that I would collect all facts. I would listen to both sides objectively. I would research whatever I could on my own. And then I would consult with the district administration, including the legal department if necessary. Consult with my fellow board members, parents, and community. But ultimately, my decision would be based on what would be the most beneficial for the district as a whole.
Thanks, Deanne. Marty?
I would develop my opinion to support or oppose by reaching out to other educators that I know, as well as educators and staff that are within the district, to find additional context to help kind of build that set of weights in your mind as to the direction that is the best. But ultimately it comes down to, once you kind of have the complete understanding of the pros and the cons in the situation, you've really got to look at how does it impact the students. The students have to raise to be number one here, and the decisions that are made by the board in these in all decisions, but definitely in controversial ones, students have to come first. I mean, they have to be put above everything else, and how are those decisions being made impacting the students? And if it's a positive impact for the students in schools, then that helps make the decision a little easier in the long run as you're in these divisive situations over certain topics. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty.
My turn. Look at the facts of both sides, pros and cons of the actual issue that arises, okay? Like it's been said, the purpose of the school system is to what? Educate the student, okay? How does it affect the student? How would I make that decision? I would actually ask my wife, number one. And number two, I would ask a few kids to get their opinion on how they feel it impacts them either positively or negatively. Now, if it comes to the administration side, I would approach the administrators to see their individual needs, not just the experts, but the individuals in the thick of it. If it's the teachers, same circumstance. What are their views? How do they look at it from a positive or negative aspect? And I've made tough decisions before that I've not wanted to make, But based on that decision-making process, I make the decision, I'm willing to back it up and move forward.
And Tori, yes, thank you, Pete.
Okay. First, I would make sure I have a thorough understanding of what is being asked, what the issues are myself. After having that, I think it's really important for us as board members to go out into the community and hear the voices. The loudest and the people that are most vocal don't always represent what's going on in the community or in the school. We have to go out into the school, we have to talk with the community members and find out what's going on. Oftentimes, people in the community at the schools aren't on one extreme side or the other. They're somewhere in the middle. And I believe if we get to those people and we talk to them and we listen, regardless of if it's administration, students, teachers, no matter what it is, when you're listening to the people and everybody's about common goals for the students, we all want our students to be successful. We're going to meet there. Let's from there find where we can meet common ground. A lot of times things can be resolved, but if we still focus on the people with the loudest voices, then we're ignoring so much of our community. Some of our community never speak up because they feel their voice isn't heard. We have a responsibility to represent them and to hear them.
Thanks, Tori. I think everyone answered. I want to make sure I didn't miss anyone. All right, the next question we will start with Marty. And that question is, how important are fine arts and extracurricular activities such as athletics to an overall education? How should they be funded?
Fine arts and extracurricular activities are very important to an overall education, absolutely no doubt. Any quality education must be more than just a classroom setting. Every parent should want their child to be involved in an extracurricular activity. It helps our children with team building and social skills and just dealing with other people that we all are going to then end up dealing with the rest of our lives. So they need to get a solid base for all of that. Getting along with other people in other situations is just, it's our lives. Funding, now that complicates the whole situation here because it gets to the really hard part of the whole thing. But and there's a lot of strong opinions on funding for these activities, especially athletics. I mean, that's a common theme throughout the country, I think, at this point. But I feel extracurricular activities, including athletics, should be funded by the district. These activities create an opportunity to bring, one, the community into the schools, which is critically important for all districts, and many districts across this state and other states struggle getting community involvement in athletics and fine arts and other programs in the schools are a way to bring that community in and touch people, and that's really important. Number two, charging extra and making parents pay, which has been a topic of conversation in Texas and other states, to pay for the activities is something I could not support. It creates an unfair system to where then you're only going to let the kids that can and have the ability to pay participate, and kids who can't don't, and that isn't right either. I mean, it really has to be something that allows every child to have that well-rounded education, that well-rounded extra activity that helps make them the person we want them to become. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty. Pete,
My turn.
your turn.
Okay. Fine arts and extracurricular activity. Yes, I support both, okay? It teaches critical skills that will carry on for life. If it's extracurricular activity, whether it's athletics, whether it's clubs, whether it's cross-track country, FFA, etc., it teaches skills on how to actually set goals, accomplish those goals, work with other people, teamwork, as we hear in public nowadays, a skill that's being lost by the wayside because of Facebook, okay, and technology. Bringing people together so they have that interaction. And I believe that the school has a preponderance of the money should come from the school district through the budgetary process, and then there's other resources out there available, whether it's grants from different institutions, whether they're sports or businesses or what have you, to actually support and sponsor those types of activities. Look at the Texas rodeo, okay? Fort Worth rodeo down there, and the big steers and what have you that are sold. If you get some businesses, individuals that actually support some of those programs, they will step up because they believe that they will build their replacement in the future. So working with a combination of resources to actually have a fulfilled system, but having the baseline as far as the budget within the school district overall.
Thanks, Pete. Tori?
Okay, first of all, I think the question is probably, oh, thank you, sorry. I think the question is probably not the best question. It's not whether or not we should be funding extracurricular athletics, fine arts. That's a part of school. As a chemistry teacher, when my students acted up, I went to the football coach. That's how I did it. That's what kept a lot of students in line. Not to mention, there are students in our schools that would drop out if they weren't in fine arts or theater or in choir. That's their livelihood. We should not be asking, should I get a chemistry hood or should I get an art spinning wheel for ceramics? That's the wrong question. The question is, are we funding our schools in totality? You do not separate the PE teacher from the science teacher or the math teacher. We don't need to segment and have our teachers going against each other. They are a unit. They make up a quality school. Our question is, how do we fund schools properly? And we have to look at our priorities as a district. Let's look at the priorities, list them out, and fund accordingly. We can't do everything. That's recognized. We know that. We may have to reduce on how well we do something, but we need to look at our schools as a total unit, not segment out, having teacher against teacher, vying for limited resources. That's not how schools handle things. That's not how we want our students to move forward in the future, and it's not the lesson we want to teach. There are grants available. There are a lot of grants available. Perhaps one of the things we can explore are maybe having a grant unit, I don't know, that looks into grants that are available for schools that help in science, in math, in language arts, and yes, fine arts, extracurricular, and all of that. But we must recognize that our school is a unit, and we have to respect the students that take those classes seriously. Everyone's not going to be a doctor. Everyone's not going to be an engineer. But everyone we want to be successful in their career, whatever it may be. Thank you.
Thanks, Tori. Deanne?
I believe that they're very important to the overall education of our students. They complement academics to develop a well-rounded student. I agree that it improves social skills and promotes teamwork, as been mentioned, in our life, which translates to our life skills for our work, in our work and in our adult lives. Many times it keeps a student in school. They have that to look forward to, and it keeps them coming into their attendance. They get more exercise sometimes. I know our grandchildren do a lot of cell phone and iPad time, but if they have an extracurricular activity, that gets them out and with more exercise. It also gives some students an opportunity for a college education through scholarships. This is that they might not have otherwise had that opportunity. In our district, I've been to a lot of the theater productions, athletics, events, band concerts, so many things. We have so many talented students in our district. And sometimes they may find that they have a talent that leads to a career in the future. And that also ends up putting them through college. So that I think it's very important for the overall. As far as the second part of the question, how funded, I think that depends on the activity. They can be funded through the operating budget, activity funds, admission revenue, and possibly booster club support, and with fees.
Thank you. Everybody answered that question. I want to make sure I don't, since we're changing the order. Okay, next question. What security measures do you support to keep students and teachers safe from other students or adults? Hi, Pete. This is your answer.
I'm first on this one, no problem with that. I was actually a security officer for many years in the Marine Corps, so I understand security. And let me be very careful on the way I answer this, because you do not want to state your security measures to the public. You want to have a practical solution with a internal security officer that manages it, or team that manages a multiple variety of security measures across the spectrum, whether it be school resource officers, whether it be electronic survey, whether it be key card access, whether it be automatic shutting doors, whether it be a variety of aspects, but you do not publish your security measures out there, because that tells the individual or individuals what the weakness potentially could be, so you keep it internal and away from the public, and that's the way it has to be done. So that's how I'm going to answer that question, but give the superintendent the resources, because that's one of the top 3 big issues facing the school district today: security, finance, and future success.
Thanks, Pete. Tori?
Okay, I think when we talk about, it's getting low again, sorry. When we talk about school security, we're not just talking about a school problem. It occurs in school when we see the violence, but this is a community problem. It's a public health issue. And I believe we need to partner with mental health facilities in the community. I don't think we do that enough. We do invite the vision, people come in for vision screening. We invite the dentists in. We invite people to come in and do screenings on hearing aids. I'm not saying that we need to have mental health facility professionals come in and screen our children, but I am saying they have something to offer our kids and our teachers and our administrators. They have knowledge. Kids, every time there's a shooting, the children have seen things, they've heard things, they just didn't know it was something worthy to mention. We don't know everything that's worth mentioning, but mental health professionals do. It's time the school partners with the community on this issue. I have a son with 3 different acronyms following his name: ADHD, ODA, RAD, a number of them. And let me tell you, that's an area we're weak in. It's a lot for a parent to go between a school psychiatrist, a psychologist, and then at an ARD meeting, and you're partnering with the teachers and administrators as well. That's a lot. A lot of times parents know when their child is hurting. They know. They just need help connecting these dots. We as a school can't do this alone. This isn't something we need to add on to a teacher's plate, but we do need to partner with our community. We must partner with our community. These people are a member of our community. And when they come and hurt our children, it's our children in the community. It's not the school's problem alone. It's a community problem, and we must come together to work on it.
Thank you, Tori. Deanne?
I believe that our first and best line of defense for our security is a well-trained and highly alert school staff and student body. It requires everyone's involvement. There's a variety of safety measures that would include the building design to physically keep our staff and our students safe. We need to have policies and procedures in place, and I know drills and lockdowns, and that's all common language these days. But those need to be in place, and also the training of staff on awareness and maybe training to identify behaviors that could be warning signs, intervention plans. And we need to make sure that we're partnering with our community first responders, with our police departments, and keep that communication open between those. Most of these that have just mentioned are more maybe the physical part of the security, but one thing that I'm very interested in is for security is to protect our data, our security data. We have a lot of information on our files that are about our employees, personal information. All the information and the data on our students, those we compile with our files, and that's very important. So I do think we need technology that will protect that data. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Deanne.
Cool. Last one.
Marty?
We've heard a lot of really good ideas. I'll start with that. Although I do feel technology is probably a really important way to address the safety and security. It's more behind the scenes, but I think that's also important. I don't think you necessarily want, I mean, everyone needs to be aware. Aware is being great, but there's a fine line between being aware and needing to be too involved in what's happening on that. So I think technology is a great resource to tap into there. I do understand, you know, coming from my situation at universities, we've looked into this as well. And being able to lock down portions of the school is great. Being able to have panic buttons are great. And there's lots of other cool things. It's just cost is sometimes often prohibitive on some of these, but certainly worth, I think, looking at more so than anything. I'm going to come out and say it because I know the big thing that runs around this is the arming of people on campus, and I'm not going to support the arming of teachers. I think that's kind of a crazy idea. I think that everyone running around with a gun is just absolutely nuts. But I do think there are opportunities to look at how can we pull in trained staff, how can we pull in resource officers and things like that to help support the technology pieces that are put in place would be important to help prevent any of these breaches in the future. Thank you.
With that, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I'm the moderator. You said you are not in favor necessarily of arming teachers, you think?
Correct.
Where do you stand on that, Pete?
I believe in the Second Amendment. If a person wants to be armed, so be it. Don't
Okay.
care.
Tori?
I'm not comfortable, as a former teacher, I'm not comfortable having it. I do recognize there are probably people that are. It wouldn't be me. I don't know, I mean, we live in Texas. I don't know if I would, there's somebody I'm sure that might be comfortable. Maybe they should be school resources. I'm not sure, but definitely not something I would be comfortable with, and I wouldn't want the training.
Okay. Deanne?
I would not be for that. I believe that our teachers are there to teach, and that we have professionals to take care of that other part of that safety, and I would not arm our teachers with guns.
Thank you for giving me the leeway to go back and ask that. I wanted to make sure I got that covered. Okay, next question, and who do I start on this one? Are we?
Lost hand.
We're back. Sorry, we got off track there. How do you plan to improve communication and participation with parents or other caregivers, and how does PTA fit into your plan?
Okay, one of the things is parents are very busy today, so as we all know that, I mean, they're juggling from going to this meeting at this school, then you have one at the middle school, and there's another meeting, and there's this, and it's just, I mean, it can be very overwhelming, not to mention getting your kids where they need to be and doing all the other stuff you have to do, like your job. So I definitely think we need to use what's already in place. Athletics have parent meetings. They're mandatory. You have to attend. I think it would be wise to have someone in the parent booster of that sport as a liaison that would meet with the school and get information and filter it back to the club or the organization. I think that would work out really well. I mean, they did it with swimming, they do it with a lot of sports. It's not official, but there's always someone that's doing that, and I think we need to take advantage of that. Parents show up for their kids when they're performing. We need to take advantage of that. I think a parent liaison would be great. In regards to PTA, I think that would help with that as well, but I also think one of the challenges I have, it's really hard for kids at 3 different schools to join every single PTA. I don't even know when they come in and out. So I find that it's, you know, the school I'm at, like if I'm going to Medlin for pony camp, I'm joining the PTA because I believe in that. Then I miss Beck's time. I don't know when it was an email, but maybe it was in the midst of papers, blah, blah, blah. And I'm wondering, in this age of technology, why isn't there a way we can just join the PTA, pay $45, $15 goes to each school, check the multiple schools you want to do, and let us do, because once you're in that system, I know I receive emails from every PTA, from the PTA president at that school. But if I'm not in the system, I can't get it. And why can't we do that? We register our kids online. Why can't we find a way to just pay the $45 and check Beck, Medlin, Byron, or Eaton, you know, Tidwell, blah, blah, blah. Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks, Tori.
Well, I do think we need to keep an open line of communication. And the district does a phenomenal job of communicating school activities through social media, newsletters, publications. And as a fact, they've won awards for their successful publications and in the industry of communications. PTA is one of our biggest support organizations, and I advocate for all the staff and parents to become involved. They also communicate through their Facebook and newsletters, and they're there to promote the district and to do what it takes they advocate for our district. They promote many events like this, and they work endless hours for Angel Tree during the year, during the holidays. Teacher Appreciation Week. They're very involved in our district. But they are our advocate. And I was very impressed, I think it was mentioned earlier, that Carrie Ann mentioned that they went to Austin. And I saw a lot of the pictures online about that, and I thought that was great. They went to meet our representatives. And another thing that I was very impressed with this organization is how that they have aligned their legislative priorities. I reviewed a lot of those, and they align with the districts, so they are our advocate. And so I feel like the communication is out there, and the participation, more need to be involved in an organization such as this.
Thanks, Deanne.
Well, I really like Tori's response. I just kind of tack on with what she said. I think she had some really great points. But I think, community involvement is obviously a very important piece. But yes, I mean, the PTA is the frontline connection with parent, teachers, and students, and we need to have a secure path. And the candidate who is elected to this position needs to have a close relationship with the PTA and be able to, get involved in some of the meetings that are happening around the different schools and get invitations. I know it's hard to be at multiple places at one time, but I think that we have enough representation that we could actually have people at different meetings throughout the year to get thoughts and ideas and make sure that you're really in touch with what's happening across the schools and what are the problems, what are the successes. I mean, it's a combination of everything, but I think that would probably be the best way, that then when the board gets back together, then they can work more cohesively as a team as to what those issues are and be very, it'll all be very apparent to them, I think. So thank you.
Thanks, Marty. Peter.
I'll echo what Marty said. And liking the first response. The one, PTA sign up, use technology, okay? I like that. But at the same time, I think because of the vast area of Northwest ISD, with all the different schools, with all the different high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, and 3 counties, okay? All the subdivisions that are going in nowadays, they have a Facebook account. Why not tap into those Facebook accounts of those subdivisions, utilizing the PTA as far as people that live in those subdivisions that have those HOAs to actually put information out from the PTA, because not everybody has the capacity or wherewithal or desire to join the PTA, but they're a member of the free HOA Facebook account. So therefore, that PTA member or that parent, okay, that gets that information can put that on the Facebook from the different organizations or HOAs throughout all the different communities of the vast community within, Northwest ISD physical space. On top of that, I find it interesting, communication is a two-way street. It also needs to come from the parents and be open from the parents. I had a very hard time as my children went through the school to actually talk to somebody about an issue I perceived my child was going through, okay? It was almost as if, as a parent, we don't want to talk to you, we want to talk to the student first, okay? Which I can respect. But that needs to be informed to the parent before or during orientation, and not necessarily when an issue comes up. So it has to be a two-way communication street. Thank you.
Thank you. I got everybody on that question, yes? Be in line here, people. All right, we have one more 2-minute question, and then we're going to start on our lightning round of 1 minute. which is less pressure actually, because it's a shorter answer. All right, the last 2-minute question, and we are up to Deanne starting first. I believe, okay.
Another lucky one.
How would you respond to a parent who wants the district to limit access to or remove books from the school library or classroom?
Well, I would begin by finding out what their objections are. Is there concern because the book is not age appropriate, or it has profanity, or is it against a religious belief? What is their motivation and their intention? This can be a balance between the First Amendment versus concerns. And I think I would tell the parent that there is a process in place for them to register those concerns that is reviewed. I would also want the parent to know that I would want the district to maintain the integrity of the educational program. You know, our professional staff, you may be using that book in a way in their classroom as a teaching aid. So I would want to maintain that integrity. Also, I want the parent to know that, you know, we would do it all that we would need to do to meet education requirements and also at the same time follow the law.
Thanks, Deanne. Marty?
I like the hand-holding part, but I don't have that in my answer. Because I was just going into, you know, restricting and removing the book is just, you have to express that it's just not a good idea. I mean, you can't allow that to start happening, and suddenly, you know, the world becomes a different place, but without us even realizing it. But, you know, libraries are a place for kids, for all kids to learn, and every kid has a different perspective on what they want to learn at that point. So there needs to be a full range of offerings in a library. And when it comes to classroom material, you know, there's many vetting processes that happen for classroom materials and curriculum that it's gone through that process and put in place for some very good reasons. I mean, not that you don't want to hear the concerns and try to understand the concerns, but the basic premises is there's things in place, and we want to have a wide ranging of topics for all of our kids to learn from.
Thanks, Marty. Pete?
My turn, great. Well, I don't think I mentioned this before. I actually happen to have my law degree. I don't practice, I think I'm too ethical. But the First Amendment issue, you go down that path, that's a slippery slope, as they say in the profession, okay? And there are policies and procedures in place to put in, or to ensure that if somebody is disgruntled or disparaged about a certain topic or book, then they go through that process. And as a board member, we have to make sure that the administration is following those legal processes accordingly. And the administrators get paid for a reason, to do their job. The board is there to make sure they do their job, okay? Not to do their job.
Thanks, Pete. Tori?
I think first we need to let parents know that the walls of these libraries, they're just symbolic. The library is online. Your child can access anything they want, any book, anytime, any segment of a book. They can do it in the bathroom at a middle school. They can do it after school. They can do it at night when you're sleeping. It is important that we share our values with our children. So the idea of removing books from library, it's kind of a passé thing. The library, I mean, most of the books the kids use, they're looking online. My daughter gets books from Language Arts. Where's your book? Oh, I'm gonna read it online. Huh? From your phone, this tiny thing? But that's what they're doing. The books are available online. They can access any part. So if you're trying to spare your child the good parts or the bad parts, depending on how we want to call them, they can get them. So we really have to talk and communicate with our children. If there is a particular concern and a teacher's teaching and she's using a book that you, as a parent, just for whatever reason don't agree with, I think you can go to that teacher and say, is there an alternative to still get the lesson across? Is there an alternative? But having books removed, I think those days are long gone. The libraries don't even hold all of the books anymore. It's just a time, I kind of think it's a time that's just not It's not very relevant today. It's all available, sadly, or greatly. I'm not sure, depending on how you feel. Thank you.
Thanks, Tori. Okay, now we're on to the exciting, I know you're all looking forward to this. They had most of those questions, and so we're going to move on to the 1-minute lightning round. Take a second, once I say it, if you want me to repeat the question, I'm fine with that too. All right, first one we have. Who do we start with on this question? I hope you're all keeping track.
I was first last time.
Okay, Marty, you're up.
Okay, let me listen.
Should we have 2 tracks of counselors at the high school level? One for vocational needs and one for social emotional health. And I will preface this by saying that at Byron Nelson, for example, I know that each guidance counselor has on average 450 students that they're responsible for somewhere. It might even be more. But I would,
Yeah,
so you got the question?
I think I've got the question.
Okay.
I think that's probably a great idea because, yes, the counselors are very overburdened at this point, and you don't want to lose track of vocational needs versus emotional needs. And that goes back to some of the security issues we talked about earlier. Understanding those are critically important to seeing where there could be problems and getting students help. So I think that, that having that track would be beneficial to all students at that point. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty. Pete?
I agree that I remember when I was in high school, yes, it was 1 or 2 days ago, that there was a guidance counselor for social issues. And then there's a vocational counselor. That was taken out of the system for what? To save money. Okay? Well, saving money is one thing, while doing what's right for the student, the child, so they can be productive members of society in the future, is the responsibility of the school district and the board to make sure, going back previously, that the educators and the administrators have the right resources and policies in place, period.
Tori?
Oh, okay. Actually, I don't really agree with that. I think counselors are equipped to handle all types of students, and I wouldn't want my student being from 9th grade on. I know they have to pick their academy. Some of these kids can't pick it. My daughter can't pick it. She's still, and she's in 11th grade, she's still kind of teetering on what she wants to do and who she is. And I think that's okay. I think the counselors are having too heavy of a load. I would rather see us reduce their load, but allow them to counsel. Let them talk to students that are vocational. Let them talk about emotional. Let them talk about academics. Let our students take the time they need to find out who they are. Let's not get them. Some students know, and I think for those students, thumbs up, great, they're there. But there's a lot of high school students, especially 9th and 10th graders, that are not there. And so maybe less load, but let's give them opportunity.
Deanne?
I think it would be a good idea. I believe just the fact of the numbers of the students that they need to counsel. And because there's such 2 different avenues, the emotional versus the vocational. That way, a set of counselors could be a little bit more specialized to answer those questions and those problems that the student might be having. And one could be more specialized in the vocational part, especially with our academies and recommending, their paths to go forward in that area. I think our emotional and mental health is quite a issue for our students these days. And I think it would be great to have counselors a little bit more specialized in both of those areas.
Marty, did I ask you?
You did, no, I started.
He was the starter.
I was the lucky dog.
So now it's me.
Okay, we're good. Let's start up with, do you agree with the NISD Board's legislative priorities?
For the most part, okay? Part of the board's decision is once they make the decision, if I'm on the board, once that decision is made, I'm going to support that decision as far as path for the district. I've been on boards and served on committees throughout my life that I've had board members, once that decision was made, as a board, then go outside of that boardroom and start bad-mouthing the decisions were made. So that's something I'm not going to do. If that's what the board's direction is as a whole, we live in a, majority vote, okay, system. And if that's the majority of the vote that says these are our priorities, then those would be my priorities, unless it ethically violates my beliefs.
Tori?
Okay, I think I'm understanding the question a little differently. I was thinking of their priority, what legislative thing is going on that's their priority now. So I took it and I was thinking of HB2, SB2, which is their priority. That's a big one. That's a big one for us as educators. That's a big one for our firemen. It's a big one for our police department. I think, yeah, I back it. I think it's important. We need to stand solid as a community. I think communities around Texas need to come together and stand. Capping us at 2.5% before we can go to vote that puts a lot of pressure on schools, puts a lot of pressure on the police department, fire department. So I think it's important. I think it is a priority, yes.
Deanne?
I very much agree with the school district's legislative priorities. Of course, number one is the school finance, and as been mentioned here this evening, that system is broke. And House Bill 3, if it goes through as written, then this school district will benefit. We'll no longer be paying out our Chapter 41 payments, which this year were a little over $4 million, and that was just set to grow to like $20 million, and in a few years, I mean, it could be up to like $70 million. So this is good, a priority for our district to promote. So school finance is the big part of the priorities, and of course then some of their other priorities were the accountability and assessment and transportation, safety and security. I read through all of them, and I very much agree with all the priorities. And as I've said before, many of these align with the PTA legislative priorities as well as TASA.
Did I get you already,
I'll
Marty?
finish this one. No, I'll finish for you. I do agree with the priorities. I think that, yes, as other candidates mentioned about school finance is critically important, but I would like to spend a couple minutes on the academic accountability. I think that's another area that really needs to have some reform, and I'm so glad that that's one of the top priorities for the district, that, that it's not all about just the STAR exam at that point, and making changes there and trying to figure out how we can more successfully judge and determine the success of our students is far greater than one exam, as well as the ratings that are now out for the different schools and stuff, the districts. I think is just not the way to set things up. I think there's a far better picture that can be painted that would give a better read on what's happening with everybody. So, cool. But yes, hands down, support all the priorities.
Wonderful. I am going to make one quick comment. The online student registration system will include a link for each family to join PTA and PTSA.
As of today.
As of today. Just wanted to make sure everyone heard that. So that's a big plus.
That is huge.
You're quick.
I knew, yay.
See, that was exciting. It was right there. Okay. Where did we leave off? I believe, Marty, you're up next.
No, I think
it's me.
I've been
I think I finished that one.
It's me. Okay, how can you as a school board member encourage or influence our legislators to increase funding and the retirement benefits for teachers?
Wow. Let's see. I mean, I think definitely getting the community involved. We need to go to Austin. We need to be more visible. We're not a district just alone. There are, I mean, when we think of like Chapter 41, there are over 400 school systems affected. We don't stand alone. So we do need to communicate with other districts. We need to communicate within our community. And I don't think there's anything wrong with us doing a trip down there and standing up.
I'm experienced at doing those trips.
I think they're important.
Thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you did not.
Deanne?
I also agree with the trips, and also just contacting our representatives. I recently did myself something that came up on Facebook, or that I was able to just type in my name, and it went to my representative on outlining all the priorities. And so it's getting involved and letting our representatives know that what we want and what we expect them to promote.
I agree. It's got to be community involvement at that point. But you also have to get, going to Austin, I think is great. It's things I've done before for my universities. You rally, you get attention, you put forth your ideas. I think it's all great, and it's all really important and needed. But I think you also have to have the ear of some specific people who are interested in what you've got going on. You've got to get their support, because to make real change comes from someone wanting to put forth legislation that actually benefits the cause that you're after, and it's got to come from some specific people at that point. So you really want to try to find those that would be willing in your district to take those kind of causes forth and just and work with them. It takes a lot of time to work with them sometimes to get what you want them to present, but if they can understand the real needs behind it, there's a great likelihood you'll get them to support it and take it forth. Thanks.
Thanks, Marty. Pete?
Okay. I've been doing this for a number of years as far as dealing with Austin and the legislatures down there. And one of the things I've learned over the years is it cannot happen right after the election. The conversation has to start a year in advance before they actually go back down to Austin, because that's when the legislation is written. That's when it's proposed before it becomes the new House or the new Senate down there. And I've been working with 5 different representatives and 3 different senators up in this area that supports this whole area for several months on school financing, on the legislation of that process. And I actually went down and testified against that, okay, as far as that bill. So it's a long, drawn-out process, and it just cannot happen at the legislation session.
Thanks, Pete. Let's see. We are up to...
Me, I think. We'll just
What is
skip
your
our
plan?
line.
What is your plan to ensure all students from every socioeconomic situation are represented when you are making decisions?
Well, I really do not make any distinction. They're students, and I represent all students. I would represent all students. Yes, I know that we have a difference in some of our parts of our district that may need remedial or tutorials more so, maybe, in other areas that are exposed to maybe a greater amount of information. But as far as a board, I would ensure that all are treated equally, and that they get the programs that they need, and I would look out for the best, to do the best for all students.
Can I hear the question one more time?
Sure, I have to find it, though.
Oh, sorry. Well, that's okay. It's okay. It's not.
Here it is. What is your plan to ensure all students from every socioeconomic situation are represented when you make decisions?
Well, I think it goes to outreach at that point. You've got to be out in the community to where you can actually hear what the concerns are from everyone, and that's not just the best neighborhoods. It's sometimes the ones that might be struggling a little bit more, and you've got to make yourself available to hear where their concerns are coming from. They've got to feel that everyone's getting what they have coming, a fair treatment going forth, is that they know someone has heard what their issues are, and that there's actually some action being addressed on some of those issues. I mean, that's the only way that people are going to feel heard, is that they're listened to and that there's some action that comes out of that. So I think that the involvement in the community and outreach is the best way to ensure that everyone's voice is heard at the board during decision-making time. Thank you.
My turn. I guess that from the board's perspective, the biggest issue from a board's perspective, would have to happen is not only the community outreach and the communication, but it would also have to include any new processes or academies put in place or activities put in place. Is it affordable across the spectrum, or are we dividing people across socioeconomic lines to where people cannot benefit because the parent cannot get to the school, cannot bring the child there for that extracurricular activity? Are there resources available to allow that student to come in? Because that's part of the problem, is it takes money to support everything, but it also takes the parents' time and resources to bring the student to the different activities. So it's a balance.
Thanks, Pete.
I
Joy?
think a lot of times we misunderstand or misrepresent people that are a little different. We need to go out of our way to reach communities. The burden is on us. These are our students. Their families are members of our community, and they belong. It doesn't matter what their SES is. We have to reach out. If what we're doing is not effective and we're only reaching a certain target of the population, then we need to find out what we're doing and change it so that we can reach everyone. We have a responsibility. That burden is ours. Those are our students. We are successful when all of our students are successful, not certain students from different SESs. We have to, it's ours. And so at schools, there are parts of the NISD community that don't feel they belong in the schools. That's our problem. That's ours. We have to show them they do belong. We need to reach out. It's not that what we're doing is wrong. We just may need to do things a little different. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, did I already ask you? So you're up for the next question. You're like, oh, great. No.
Oh, you don't want the next one?
No. Okay. What will you do to include students' opinions, voices when it comes to discussion, changes, or any regulations? I believe that's how are we going to be more inclusive of students in your decision-making process.
Right, and that's how do you outreach to students at that point? I mean, I guess it's got to happen, I guess, somehow through a social media piece to get their attention, to be able to have that feedback coming into the board, to hear what's going on. So maybe some special groups need to be set up from the board. I mean, I think there's nothing wrong. I agree, face-to-face, you can't go wrong with that Pete mentioned earlier. We're very focused on our phones in today's world, but our students are on their phones a lot, and we need to find a way that they can see the issues and communicate their concerns back or their opinions back. And I think that is going to have to be some sort of social media aspect, or we probably won't get the involvement we want from them. I mean, we can certainly, I'm all for going out and meeting with folks and getting focus groups together. We've done focus groups at the university before and getting face-to-face comments back, but I think a social media way would be a beneficial process there as well. Thank you.
Pete?
I'll capitulate on this aspect because I have two kids. One, totally into social media. The other one doesn't even have a Facebook account and will not have one, okay? So she wants the face-to-face interpersonal relationship. The other one, send it on Instagram, send it on Facebook, send it on Twitter and all this other good stuff, okay? So I have in my house two different girls, okay, growing up in the same house. So both components have to come into play because everybody receives information just like we learn. Everybody learns differently and everybody interacts differently, and not just focus on the special groups of the students, like the athletes or the student body association. Not just those, but spread it out, because kids outside of those groups also have an opinion and also have a view how it'll affect them. Thanks.
I think definitely we need to keep the social media. That's important. We do need to do that. But how cool would it be for a board member to go to Java House at one of the high schools and sit with students and listen? Students would respect that. They value that. They value us. And they value the things they have to say. We just don't usually give them the time to do it. We don't put the time in to go to where they are. But I think there's nothing wrong with spending a lunch at Byron, at Northwest, at Eaton, at Steele. They're there. So I think meet students where they're at. Don't let go of social media, but also go meet students. Let's give them the credit.
And I agree, our kiddos are on social media all the time, and that is definitely the way that you would reach them. And as you put it, how to keep students in your decision, students are at the core of every one of our decisions. Our kids come first, and if we put our kids first, then all the other decisions are going to fall into place. Whether it is a decision that we have to make about safety and security, or we have to make a decision about budget, or anything that the board might have put before them, if our children and our kids are put first, all those other things will fall into place.
Well, looking at the time, we are a couple minutes over what we said we would do, and I want to give each one of you the opportunity to do your 2-minute wrap up. This is your chance to say, I'm your person because. So, who did we leave off with on the last question? Marty, did you go first? On the last question?
Yeah, I think I was first, yes.
Okay. Pete?
So I'm the wrap-up.
You get to wrap
I'm the
up
first
first.
wrap-up. Well, like I started off, okay, I have a unique background, 22-plus years in the Marine Corps. I went in enlisted, came out an officer. I've led people in combat. I've led people in humanitarian operations. I've been a treasurer on a booster club over at Byron Nelson High School. I was FAA volunteer for a while. I was one of the dads over in Justin Elementary. So I've been involved in the school system throughout my entire time here in Texas, okay? On top of that, I've been a mayor of a town. I understand the political process, and we can't get everything, but there's things to prioritize, set goals, and move forward. You know, I took over the town when I became mayor with a deficit. We have a surplus now. We have a AA- rating, and we have a great debt-to-income ratio as far as resource ratio, and we continue to grow. And this school district is only going to continue to grow. We need to grow it properly. We need a leader in place to make sure we have the policies and procedures and give the administrators and the teachers and the students the resources to be successful, not only now, but in the future. And one thing that I would like to do, if on board, is actually bring in additional vocational type of school system, okay, within the academy process, the skills that people do not have. When a welder can go out there and make $100,000 per year after he gets certified, I think some students might want to do that because they don't want to go to college, okay? So that's some of those types of skills that cannot be outsourced. Those are some of the things that we need to put in place now for the future leaders and future workers of our area. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
And vote for Pete.
Tori?
Okay, my academic and my professional skills are strong. They're there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that, but I have them. What I want to say is that Northwest ISD is an amazing school system. The families that make up are united in wanting the best for all children. We graduate a diverse group of students, engineers, welders, doctors, pilots, beauticians, educators, and chefs, to name a few. I ask you to join me in representing our school system and vote for me on May 4th. Thank you.
Tori. Deanne?
Well, I will just say that I'm very proud to be a part of this great district. It is a great district, and our students and our staff, they're exceptional, and I want to be a part of the future. I want to be a part of a district where kids do come first, and I believe that from my experiences as being a public school administrator, that will contribute, or maybe will provide a contribution to the board and to the district and to our students.
Thanks, Deanne. Marty?
Well, first, let me thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate the fact that we have a nice physical audience here to actually look at someone, as well as our Facebook audience that I can't see, but you have a more comfortable view probably at this point. But I certainly hope you've gotten to know me a little bit better. I hope that you have a better understanding now of how I can represent you in the district of the Board of Trustees. I believe I have some very relevant work experience that will fit well with what's happening within this school district, from pushing through student success initiatives to working with HR on working up detailed comprehensive pay plans for staff, as well as managing construction projects for institutions that have had growing needs themselves and trying to expand faster than they can to put that student first and give the student the space that they need, as well as working with state legislatures on trying to get issues important to the university in their ear and getting them to support it and take it forth has been great experience. So this experience, along with my other educational experience, have put me in a very good position. I ask that I can represent you in the Northwest ISD Board of Trustees, and I will certainly ask that you visit my Facebook or my website at votebaylor4schoolboard.com, and you can actually read some other testimonials of people who have worked with me and get a better idea of the kind of person I am from my work. So vote for Baylor. Thank you.